JJ Jinx!
Truck stop!
This video is going to be about Smith & Wesson SWAT knives. Like this one. It's pretty scratched up, so it's kind of hard to see, but it says Smith & Wesson SWAT first production run. Now this particular model came out sometime in the 1980s, and being a part of the first production run, it's the original Smith & Wesson Hammer Forged. So, let's take a quick tour of this knife and talk about it. It is a liner lock. The handles are actually aluminum. You can see there's some oxidation under the coating here of the aluminum. And then each side has two rubberized inserts. Normally there would be a pocket clip here, but I got this thing for like 10 bucks on eBay. So it's pretty beat up. It's even got a nasty little chip in the blade there. But that's okay. I just wanted one for, well, a couple reasons. One, to make this video, and two, I used to own a knife a lot like this one when I was younger. More on that later. You got a pretty long drop point blade, a little bit of jimping on the back here. Overall, it's okay in terms of the comfort, but this is more of a utilitarian knife. Production continued on these knives all the way up until sometime after the year 2001, because there is a model that says first millennium run, which was made in 2001. The construction is actually really simple. You have a couple of screws here that go all the way through to the other side, and the screws go right through the liner. There is a bit of a detent and a lanyard hole. Now, Smith & Wesson also made a mini version of this knife at some point. I don't have one, but it actually had a cool feature where you could push down on the logo and the blade would deploy. This model, it's definitely not a flipper. I mean, you could work at it and get it done. There we go. In 1993, Smith & Wesson made an updated design, and it is this knife. It's quite a departure in terms of design. It's got a lot more curves to it. It's got some artistic features, and you can see on the blade, it is the Smith & Wesson SWAT 2. And on the other side of the blade, this is also a first production run. It's a little scuffed, but it also says that it was designed by Stuart Taylor, because these were made by Taylor Cutlery. A couple of notable things about this design. You got the Smith & Wesson logo on the pivot, a little scratched up. Again, I got this one from eBay for, I think, 12 bucks. We have some weight reduction in the steel scales, in the form of these slots, and a nice little green plastic accent on the handle on both sides. Unlike the first model, there are screws on both sides of the liners, and the blade also has thumb studs. And it's got a pretty good detent. Much improved. I do like how you can see the blade through these slots. I think that's pretty cool. The shape of the blade's a bit different too. You sort of have this barbed look. So I guess technically it's still a drop point, but modified. And you got some of that recessed jimping in the back. Doesn't really do much in my opinion, but it's there. You really got to squish your thumb down in there to feel it though. Now I know it looks goofy, but it's actually rather comfortable. The way the knife flares out as it approaches the blade makes it so that you can grip it with confidence. You don't really need super aggressive jimping or anything like that. My fingers are not going to move from here. But it does taper towards the back, so if you have larger hands, it might not feel so great, but it works for me. And the pocket clip also has the Smith & Wesson moniker on it, and it's one of those deals where it kind of curves around the pivot screw. How long did they make this knife for? No idea. The SWAT 2. At some point in the 90s, Smith & Wesson came up with another design. It is this one. This one's quite different, again, but it sort of harkens back to the first model. They go back to the black and silvery motif, 2 rubberized inserts on each scale, but with a little bit more of an artistic shape to them. You might notice there's a switch right here. That is a safety switch because this knife, unlike the other two, is open assisted. This model they have called the Smith & Wesson SWAT. So I guess this is that kind of like a Hollywood reboot where they keep the same name. On the other side, you have a list of patents, the type of steel, and its country of origin. This one was not made by Taylor Cutlery. It was made in Taiwan by somebody else. Not a first production run. It's got some problems. Missing screw here, a missing screw there, but that's okay. I just wanted it to show you. A couple things I like about this model. It's a bit more slender. The jimping is a little more pronounced, and I think that makes it more comfortable. And it's not sharp jimping. It's just enough to, give you a nice grip, and I can really feel the rubberized inserts too. Now, the way the safety mechanism works is, if you look closely, somewhere in here, there's a little ball bearings kind of sticking down a little bit. The switch pushes that ball down, and that prevents you from moving the blade. But you might have noticed that that ball was already down, and that's one of the problems I've had with this knife, is that the ball just kind of can freely float down there. Now, if you try hard enough, you can eventually get the blade to close. What you can also do is turn it over and give it a little tap. And that knocks the bearing back into place, and now you can close it up. And if you try hard enough, you could also deploy it with the safety on. You just gotta slide it past that bearing. It's probably not supposed to do that, but it's just very worn. So there it is, the third generation Smith & Wesson SWAT knife. Then at some point in the 2000s, Smith & Wesson made another design update, and it is this one. Another departure from the older designs. Instead of 2 rubberized inserts, there's just 1, but it's a lot more artistic. The way that it meanders around these metal highlights, I really like that look. It's less rubbery, but more textured. Kind of reminds me of a roof shingle. And each side bears the Smith & Wesson logo in kind of a tarnished bronze color. You got a deep running pocket clip and a lanyard slot. This one is also open assisted. We got a black painted partially serrated blade. This model they have decided to call the Smith & Wesson SWAT. So the only one that ever actually got a name update was this one, the SWAT 2. Speaking of other versions, you can also get this one in all black. This one's a bit heavier, it's a bit wider. Comfort-wise, it's okay. We do have some nice ergonomic curvature going on, and that works pretty well. My number one complaint are these 2 strange little fins on the back of the scales. Not really sure what they were going for. Is that supposed to be like a thumb stop or something? But they're kind of uncomfortable. They sort of jab into your thumb, and I don't like that. And as I mentioned, there are variants of this knife. There aren't any of this knife that I know of. There might be a miniature version. I would have to look again. But I just wanted the base models. So what does the future of the Smith & Wesson SWAT line look like? I don't know. They like to change up their designs quite a bit, but I can tell you one thing. It's probably going to be called the SWAT knife.